Can you talk a little bit about tenure and how that fits in and just sort of unmask that for folks?
Want me to talk about it? Anybody want to talk about it particularly? Okay, who does? Okay, tenure, okay, so tenure is a pat on the back, like that, okay? In Mount Sinai, we're are we a not-for-profit voluntary institution? I don't know what our tax status is, but we are not a state agency, right? So if you were working for a state university or school, they may have financial support for that position that goes with the title. You know, that, you know, is sort of guaranteed for that title. And that may depend. I have not worked for one of the New York State institutions, but it depends very much from state to state to state. We don't have that. So the guarantee, what tenure sort of says is, one, you can keep your title, that's nice, and it has some very minimal amount of money for rank. I actually, Cathy, I don't know if you remember, but I think for professor, it's something like 30,000.
The professor minimum
Yeah.
is, I believe, 49,000 and change.
Okay, 49,000. So it's not an enormous amount of money in terms of if you were planning to live on it, at least in New York City. On the other hand, it's nice. You can put it on, you know, other things that you do and talk about other things you do. And it is a guarantee that you can maintain that title. I have to tell you, it's still, you need to be part of your department and your institution. If you have tenure, I mean, I'm talking from my, you know, my own point of view, not necessarily the institution here. If you're still not getting along with everybody, it could be kind of uncomfortable. You know, they could say, yeah, you need an office, but it could be kind of not the most pleasant office on the floor. So you want to figure out, you know, you want to maintain your relationship with your institution, not just say, hey, I have tenure, you can't bother me. Because, you know, bureaucracies do have a way of bothering people, and you want to have a good relationship with them. So I think tenure is more a pat on the back than it is anything else. And it is voted and reviewed separately. So people can get a title, become an associate professor, and depending on the letter from the chair, may or may not be asking for tenure at that time or not. So they don't have to go together. It's an independent voting process, actually, and consideration. We see it mainly in the professor title level, is where we start to see more requests for tenure. I think actually, Cathy, you could mention on that, on the clinical educator, what % would you say ask for tenure when they get to professor? Do you have any idea?
5%.
Yeah, I was going to say not too many is what I think.
I mean, I'll just say that the issue of tenure didn't even come up during my process of getting promoted from associate to professor.
Okay, and are you a clinical educator track?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I can tell you what tenure says is that the chair has a lot of confidence in your future productivity and doesn't ever want to lose you. That is
good.
That
I
is
agree.
that is what tenure really means, and so it's a little more than a pat on the back, and it does make it a little bit more difficult to get rid of you. You can still get, believe me.
Mount Sinai will find a way.
There is no question about it, but it does make it a little bit more difficult. There's a little bit of security built in, but I can tell you again, the chair is looking at this is someone I want to keep, I don't want to lose, and hopefully conveying tenure gives that little added incentive for someone to stay. It's a declaration that you've been productive, and the anticipation is that you'll continue to make significant contribution to the department.
I agree with that. I think it is that it does represent that confidence in you. So I think, you know, in that sense, it's nice, and it is a positive that you're sharing with your leadership in your division and in your department.
I hate to say it, but some chairs might not initially put you up with tenure, and I do think it done correctly and diplomatically, engaging in the conversation, why don't you want me to have tenure? It's an important conversation to have diplomatically, carefully, on a good day with your chair.
I think Dr. Jagoda and Dr. Asbell have said it very nicely. And, you know, historically, tenure was intended to protect faculty who had the potential to have controversial views in the field that might go out of favor, and this was a way of providing protection over time. It was once said that people who need tenure can't get it, and people who have it don't need it. And I think that's still become the case to some extent. It does represent essentially a form of guarantee that your position will be maintained, and that although the salary support is kind of minimum for rank, for base salary, it's not going to support you in the manner to which you hope to become accustomed, but it's going to provide some representation that the division or department in particular is going to be confident that you're going to be of ongoing value to its mission. And fundamentally, the financial burden falls to the department. And so when the committee, the Appointments, Promotions, and Tenure Committee reviews it, there's obviously credence given to that fact, that if the chair has requested tenure, it's really a question of looking to see, has there been a demonstration of ongoing productivity? Is that likely to continue? Someone who's not in a waning phase of their career, that would not be a good person necessarily for a candidacy for tenure, someone who's been kind of pooping out in terms of productivity. But from the actual financial burden falls on the department and the department chair.
Jonathan, you brought up a good point. The committee is looking for going forward in terms of productivity and what you're doing. So sometimes we see people who've been here a long time, actually, who are now finally getting promoted, let's say, to associate. And you look back and you see they did a lot of stuff, they've been here a long time, but actually at the moment, they're not really doing that much. They're no longer the director. They were in the past and did a great job, but now they stepped down from that. They were, the biggest volume of patients, but now they're seeing a little less. So that's not the right time to go to the promotion committee. You're forecasting continued growth and participation. So don't sit around and I see a couple of people here, say well, I've been here, I did all this stuff, how are you going to pay me back? It's how we're paying forward, really. So think about, don't wait to the last minute, so to speak, in your career to say, I wonder why I never got promoted. Think about it while you're active and you can demonstrate your activity and your continued productivity. And you are the one who has to be thinking about that. We have a couple of leadership people on the podium, and you had some earlier today as well. And part of their job, as described by the Dean Charney, is to look at mentoring and helping people advance their career. But they often have many jobs, right? They have a lot of things to think about, which you may not be quite high on the horizon there, okay? So you may need to initiate with that. I'd like to meet with you and see what you think about my CV and whether I might be ready for promotion, rather than wait till they come to you, okay? So you may want to initiate that. In fact, I think you should, because sometimes waiting for them, they may have a long list of things they need to get to, and perhaps you're not on the ones they get to very quickly.